tackling a Superflex Rookie Mock Draft, 4 rounds, courtesy of Ian Cummings over at Pro Football Network. We are going to do this mock draft based on his landing spots, his draft capital. You guys know what we're doing around here. I think this is the 6th one that we've done so far. I promise you guys we will do a 1 quarterback one next. A lot of you guys commented on the last one that I did solo and said, please do a 1 quarterback one. That will be the next one that we do in 7.0. But before we get into it, you know what we got to do here. Danny, how you doing?
Doing well. And yeah, looking at, by the way, a 7-round mock. I mean, our viewing pleasure, by the way. It's going to be so much easier to go through all these rounds. But seeing some of these landing spots, seeing some of the draft capital, some of our favorite prospects go into our favorite spots, including my team potentially taking an option in the first round. All of that to uncover in today's video. I'm going to be super fired up, discussing a lot of these players.
Let's get right into it. All right, so we filled out the draft. Like I said, we are doing this mock draft, if you guys skipped over the intro, based on Ian Cummings from Pro Football Network's 7-round NFL mock draft that he recently put out. I think this is the first Dynasty rookie mock with landing spots that we're doing from a 7-rounder. So we're doing the full 4 rounds of the mock draft as if whatever Ian said in his 7-round mock draft actually happens in the real NFL draft, and you guys should be able to see all the landing spots on the screen right now. You guys can see that CJ Stroud went 1st overall, Bryce Young went 2nd overall, Anthony Richardson 4th overall, etc., etc. I'll try and showcase these like throughout the video so that you guys can make reference to them after we kind of recap a couple picks in a row. I'll flash this back on the screen. Yeah, throughout the video, we will kind of do that. We are going to hit the start draft button here, and then Harry can make the 1st overall pick. And again, like I said, after every couple picks or so, I'll flash the landing spots back on the screen so we can see who's available.
Yeah, definitely going to be interesting. We pretty much know who's going to go 1 here. Not to mention, he actually got a very, very good landing spot. So expecting to see Bijan Robinson, 21st overall pick to the Los Angeles Chargers. Wow. CJ Stroud went 1 overall. I just assumed it would be Bijan. So we do see CJ Stroud 1st overall pick in this mock, followed by Bijan Robinson, 21st overall pick. Is there any decision point for you if that were to materialize, or you're just taking Bijan, right?
Yeah, I'm just taking Bijan. I understand the QB equity argument. Yeah. If you're in a rebuild, maybe you favor the quarterback position just because of the longevity. I personally, knowing that the market is so dead set on Bijan 101, knowing that you could, if you prefer Stroud, trade down to 102 and make sure that you get your top quarterback and pick up at least a late 1st rounder in 2024, if not more than that, potentially, maybe a young receiver or something like that. That's the direction that I would personally go in. So I would still take Bijan Robinson 1st overall. Like you said, he went, 21st to the Chargers. In that scenario, I guess we'd probably have to assume that Austin Eckler was traded or cut or something like that. And that's why they're addressing the position group. When we get on the clock, we'll probably pause the draft and kind of recap all the landing spots because it is going quite fast and furious at the moment. Then we got, CJ Stroud went 1st overall to the Panthers. Anthony Richardson, 3rd pick in this rookie draft. He went 4th overall to the Indianapolis Colts. We've already kind of talked about that landing spot as it relates to, his development with Shane Steichen, who obviously developed Jalen Hurts there. And then Bryce Young closes out that top tier, going 2nd overall to the Texans, which I'm assuming will just be a foregone conclusion that happens at this point.
I'm if I were to place my mortgage on any single, outcome of the NFL draft, if say I had to pick 2 picks correctly, the 2 picks are going to be CJ Stroud going 1 to the Panthers and Bryce Young going 2 to the Texans.
So like I said, these are the landing spots like we talked about. We had the 5th overall pick, Will Levis, going to the Detroit Lions, which definitely would be great news for his draft stock. Will Levis is a quarterback that does need some development, even though he's a little bit of an overage quarterback, overage prospect. He's going to be 24 years old. But him sitting behind Jared Goff would definitely be good for his future fantasy prospects. Jaxon Smith-Njigba went 12th overall to the Houston Texans, 106 in this rookie draft here. I think that'd be a great landing spot for him. Obviously, a lot of targets available. Pair him up with Bryce Young, Alabama and Ohio State connection there. Jahmyr Gibbs went 7th overall in this rookie draft. He went in the actual NFL draft in this example, 53rd to the Chicago Bears. So kind of interesting there, going along to complement Khalil Herbert. 108 was Quentin Johnson. He went 18th overall to the Detroit Lions. A bit of a crowded situation there. If JMO, Amon-Ra St. Brown and, the running backs and QJ are all competing for targets, that'll probably just mean that the offense is very good, but definitely a pretty good offense to go to, but not necessarily a lot of targets available for QJ, but I still don't mind the pick. And then Jordan Addison goes 23rd overall to the Minnesota Vikings, obviously competing with Justin Jefferson for targets, but Adam Thielen's now gone. KJ Osborne isn't really worth a damn. TJ Hawkinson, he can command targets, but I expect Jordan Addison to kind of solidify himself as like the number 2 there. The Vikings would kind of have like a pseudo, Philadelphia Eagles situation going on where you have AJ Brown as your Justin Jefferson, Devontae Smith is your Jordan Addison, and then, Dallas Goedert's your TJ Hawkinson kind of situation there. And then Zach Charbonnet also went off the board before my pick here. He went 52nd overall to the Tennessee Titans. So another situation where potentially we see Derrick Henry on the move. He gets traded and then they replace him in the draft with Zach Charbonnet, or maybe that first year, Zach Charbonnet is not all that productive because Derrick Henry's there and we have to wait maybe until midseason or the end of his rookie year. So I'm on the board here. Yep. There's a number of different directions I could go. Looking at like the landing spots and stuff, all the first rounders outside of Josh Downs are pretty much off the board. Then we have a number of different wide receivers that went off in the second round. I actually am I don't think this will actually happen in the NFL draft. But Tank Bigsby goes second round to the Buffalo Bills. Yeah. In this mock draft, he went off the board as the 59th overall pick to the Buffalo Bills. I have Tank Bigsby right now rated as a top 15 player. And given that he's a running back, getting second round draft capital added to his profile, going to an offense of the caliber of Buffalo's, I think that'd be an awesome, awesome fit. I don't think he's going to go this high in the NFL draft. But again, we're preparing for the unexpected. If this actually happens, how would we handle that situation in the real life NFL draft?
For sure. I'm on the clock here. Next pick. And you mentioned the first round equity here, the first round pick draft capital with Josh Downs. I think you got to take him here. Yeah, I mean, looking at it from the perspective now, I don't think this is the direction the Cowboys would go, given the fact that they just traded for Brandon Cooks. Maybe this was made before the Brandon Cooks trade, but we're just materializing it right now. Josh Downs, if he were to go to 26th overall, yeah, you're going to have some complications there year one, obviously competing with 3 other talented wide receivers. But from the long-term perspective, the Cowboys can get out of Brandon Cooks pretty damn cheap after the season if they want to view that as a rental. And the same thing with Michael Gallup, a very movable contract. So from the long-term perspective for Josh Downs, you're figuring he's going to be that wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 type alongside of CeeDee Lamb in this offense. Tethered to a guy like Dak Prescott, we know the team's going to flirt with the top 5 overall offense. And 26th overall capital just signals to me that they would have a plan for a guy like Josh Downs.
Yeah. Next pick off the board was Cedric Tillman, who went 39th to the Carolina Panthers. Definitely a situation that has a lot of targets available. No DJ Moore there. They sign Adam Thielen recently. They go out and sign Hayden Hurst as well. They bring in Miles Sanders. So they're kind of crafting this offense around CJ Stroud by the looks of it. It looks like Harry C30 just loves him some Carolina Panthers with his 2 picks so far, pairing up those 2 teammates. So we got Claire on the board here, 2-2. We'll see where she goes here with this. Dalton Kincaid off the board. Where did he go in this draft? He went 33rd to the Texans. So he was, I believe, the first tight end off the board in the actual draft. No first round tight ends, which we haven't really seen too often in a lot of these NFL mock drafts. But a lot of these guys fly off the board in the second round, and Dalton Kincaid was the first guy off the board to the Houston Texans. Then we have Zay Flowers, who flies off the board here. 35th. He went 35th to the Colts. I think that's an awesome fit for what they would need. He'd be like a way better version of what Paris Campbell was providing them, and he'd be a good complement to Michael Pittman as well. So actually, I really like that fit. If Flowers or Downs even too are there for the Colts at the top of the second round, I think that would be an awesome fit.
Yeah, and then we see Kendre Miller, 90th overall pick by my Dallas Cowboys, the other, Cowboy in this, mock draft by Ian Cummings. I think that's a great fit. I mean, that, Tony Pollard's going to get the majority of the valuable touches for the Cowboys once he's healthy from that leg injury he suffered against San Francisco. But in terms of the power back role, goal line opportunities inside the 5, Kendre Miller could have a very good role. And as we know, Tony Pollard's on the franchise tag. It's very unlikely, I would say, that the Cowboys are going to re-sign him to like a 2-3+ year deal. So if that's the case, and you're getting Kendre Miller, second round draft capital or day 2 draft capital, potentially being the lead back for the Cowboys, having a good role this year and then having a very, very good role by 2024, sign me up.
Yeah, if Kendre Miller gets high draft capital, he's definitely going to be a very popular fantasy pick, and people will take him as high as 2-4, potentially even a little bit higher than this. So there was a ton of wide receivers that went off the board in the second round. And again, the reason we're doing these mock drafts is to get a feel and a sense for the class in a variety of different scenarios. Now, in Ian's mock draft, he has a number of wide receivers that maybe you've never even heard of, or a number of wide receivers that I don't think are all that good, like, Jonathan Mingo, Trey Palmer, some of these dudes going in the second round. But we have to be prepared for that scenario, right? If that actually happens in the NFL draft, If you want to pause the draft real quick, again, I'll kind of recap the recent picks that have happened. So we have Michael Mayer, who went off the board here. He went 45th overall to the Green Bay Packers. He was a popular pick for the Packers in the first round in older mock drafts, but we actually see him go off the board here in the second round. Israel Abanikanda goes off the board 60th overall to the Cincinnati Bengals, probably to replace Joe Mixon, at least in the long term. I'm not a huge fan of Israel Abanikanda. I don't think he can create a whole lot on his own. When I watched his film, I thought he was a very linear runner, doesn't have a lot of elusiveness. And despite being pretty good through contact for a bigger back, I just don't think he's got a very creative skill set. But if he goes to a great offense, he could definitely be great for fantasy. Devon Achane slides a little bit here, 2-8. He actually went off the board in the fourth round to the Houston Texans to complement Dameon Pierce. I think that's a good fit, although I do think Devon Achane will go on day 2. And then Marvin Mims also went off the board in the second round here to the Los Angeles Chargers. A great fit for his skill set. I'm not super high on Mims from like a full complete receiver standpoint, but I think if he was in a complementary role in a great offense like the Chargers, I think that would make a lot of sense. And then Kayshon Boutte, let me find him here in this mock draft. I think he slid to the fifth round of the Buffalo Bills. To me, I think if you get a fifth round wide receiver, I'm probably going to favor a lot of these like better draft capital options over him. I like the landing spot of him going to Buffalo, but I'm not super sold on Kayshon Boutte there.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Pretty much summed up my thoughts. I will say I really like the value there on Marvin Mims, getting that second round capital, landing on a team like the Chargers. We did see, like I kind of said, the Cowboys traded for a guy like Brandon Cooks that can stretch the field. Marvin Mims would kind of provide that role for that Chargers, Kellen Moore-led offense with Justin Herbert at the helm. So getting him at the 2-9, I just think that's free upside. So Notorious getting Addison and Mims in the first 2 rounds. I really like what he's doing there. You are on the clock, though, so I will unpause it for you. And where are you leaning here?
Yeah, so like I said, there's a lot of these second-round wide receivers. Trey Palmer went, to the Tennessee Titans. All these the names that we know, Flowers, Hyatt, Downs, they're already off the board. So we're into this kind of next tier of wide receivers with, Palmer going 41st to the Titans, Mingo going 44th to the Falcons. Then we also had Tucker Kraft, who is a second-round capital tight end to the Detroit Lions that I think is interesting. And then A.T. Perry went 63rd to the Chiefs. He's a great athlete, but he's an older prospect, and I'm not a huge fan of his profile. Or we have like some of these later round running back picks. I think I'm going to grab the tight end. I think I'm going to go with Tucker Kraft, who goes to the Lions here. Again, there's not a huge like standout pick for me because a lot of the running backs that I like went on day 3, right? Like Chase Brown, I love. He went on day 3 to the Jacksonville Jaguars. He'd be probably stuck behind Travis Etienne there. Roshan Johnson goes 123rd overall in the 4th round to the Seattle Seahawks. He's stuck behind, Kenneth Walker, but I'll let you make your pick before I take up the clock.
For sure, and I believe this will be the last day 2 running back. Let me just make sure, double reference here. Yeah, no other running backs left on day 2. I do think that Tyjae Spears represents a little bit of a value gap there. Yeah, I mean, there's more talented players in the 4th round, in my opinion. A-Chain, Chase Brown, Roshan Johnson, but trusting the day 2 capital, yeah, he's going to be, behind, quote unquote, a guy like Nick Chubb year 1, but that Nick Chubb can't handle the third down capabilities, the pass down capabilities. The team has already showed you that in the past. Tyjae Spears, a smaller back, shiftier back, can maybe play that Kareem Hunt-esque type of role. And then long term, if we're looking at it, Nick Chubb is a 27-year-old running back. The wheels will fall off as, in an instance, if you will, with a lot of running backs at the position. So getting a guy like Tyjae Spears, talented player, day 2 capital, potential role increase after this year, I think you can do a lot worse with your 212.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Again, like some of these guys didn't get like the best landing spots later on in the draft. Like I think I really like the landing spots for Ian's mock here in the early portion of the draft, but once we get to like the mid-second round, it starts to kind of fall off a cliff for me in terms of the value. And hopefully, we get a little bit more of these running backs getting day 2 capital or whatever the case is, or some of these wide receivers that he had going highly might start hearing their names called off the board here. Because we're on the board here and we still have Trey Palmer and Jonathan Mingo and stuff who went like top 50 picks. Yeah. So as much as I don't love those prospects, if they get top 50 draft capital, you have to assume that they're at least in consideration for you there at the 2-3 turn. Just, similar to what we saw with Tyquan Thornton last year. I didn't think Tyquan Thornton was going to go that high in the draft, but he ran fast and he went high in the draft as a result of it. And I think the same could be said for Trey Palmer, who also tested very well, and same goes for Mingo as well. So we're going to probably start to see some of these guys come off the board. I'll recap some of the players in the landing spots once we get to my pick, but I'm hoping one of those wide receivers slides to me.
Yeah, no, a lot of value at that spot. Realistically, I don't care how bad of a prospect you are. If you are, going on day 2 and you're falling to me, the end of the 3rd round, like I'll always take the plunge there. I get it. Tyquan Thornton, he's not a good player, didn't really show much in his rookie year, but in general, it's just a good philosophy to have. If somebody goes on day 2, you're going to get a better chance of them potentially getting on the field.
Yeah, exactly. And as much as I love Chase Brown and I love Sean Tucker, they went in the 4th round behind Travis Etienne with Chase Brown. Tucker went in the 5th round, as did Tyler Algier, who would be his new teammate there in Atlanta. But I think Tyler Algier is a better back than Tucker and would probably command more workload. There's just not a lot of path for him to be of relevance there. Hendon Hooker, we've seen mocked on day 2 before, but he actually fell to the 5th round. With the Las Vegas Raiders there. Zach Evans goes to the San Francisco 49ers on day 3, which would be interesting for his skill set, but probably not somebody that I'd be overly invested in, just given the size and some of the profile stuff that we've seen with him. So I'm actually going to make my pick here, and then we can get to your pick and kind of recap some of this other stuff here. I'm going to grab Trey Palmer. I think he goes to he goes to the Titans. I think I might favor Mingo here just because he has a better landing spot there. I don't know. I'm caught between these guys. I'm gonna go with Trey Palmer. He goes to the Titans, 41st overall. Terrible landing spot, right? We don't love the landing spot there, but 41st overall draft capital. I will take that in the end of the 3rd round.
And I'm sorry, I was about to go with Sam Laporta, but then I just noticed in this mock that they went with both Washington and Laporta in rounds 2 and 3. Like that, by the way, that's such a Patriots move because they quite literally did something like that a few years ago. But yeah, it's kind of weird. Laporta, I like the player, but tight ends are already slow developing, and the fact that he's getting drafted on the same day too as Darnell Washington does not favor him quite so much. I think I'm going to go Tyler Scott here. I like the landing spot, landing there with the Seattle Seahawks. They're a team that have obviously those dominant 2 wide receivers with Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. I think Tyler Scott can give you a lot of that versatility down the field, really open up that offense. So you're just going to have 3 absolute ballers that could win in the 3rd level, and I think Tyler Scott could fit well there.
Yeah, exactly. So again, recapping some of the other picks that we didn't talk about. Luke Musgrave went 85th to the Chargers. He was the 3-1 in this draft. Rashee Rice goes 96 to the Cardinals. He was the 3-2 in this draft. Like you said, Darnell Washington was the first tight end that the Patriots took at 46th overall. They also took Laporta at 70th overall, which is really weird. And they already have Hunter Henry and Mike Gesicki, who they just signed to a 1-year deal. So building out like a 6 tight end core there in New England is Bill Belichick. Really strange type of draft strategy. But I mean, if anybody were to do something like that, it probably would be the Patriots. Xavier Hutchinson went here at the 3-8. He was the 86th overall pick of the Baltimore Ravens. Kind of feels a little Miles Boykin-y to me, but whatever. A.T. Perry, like I said, end of the 2nd round pick to the Kansas City Chiefs. He's got a lot of warts on his profile, but he's a good athlete and he's big. And Kansas City doesn't have a whole lot of size in their receiving core, a lot of slot guys. So I think that'd be kind of an interesting landing spot for him. They also take Eric Gray, who went at the 3-10, 134th overall pick, round 4 to the Kansas City Chiefs, kind of like the new Jerick McKinnon, I'd imagine. And then, like I said, I took Trey Palmer, who was a 2nd round pick, 41st overall to the Titans. You took Tyler Scott, who was a 83rd overall pick from Cincinnati to the Seattle Seahawks. And then we got a couple more guys coming off the board here. Roschon, like I said, was a 4th rounder to the Seattle Seahawks, probably working behind Kenneth Walker as like his handcuff. Not a great landing spot for him, but he'd probably take down passing down work there. And then Parker Washington, he went off the board with the 4-2, and he was, where did he actually go in this mock draft? He just was a 4th round pick to Cleveland.
4th round pick to Cleveland. Sorry, I thought you meant in the mock draft. Yeah, he went 4-2 in the mock to Cleveland in the 4th round there, like you said. Mingo does go off the board. I think that would be the final day 2 player that went. No, there's still one more.
I think Kuntz hasn't gone yet.
And Bryce Ford Wheaton. And Bryce Ford Wheaton. So there's still a couple guys that could potentially go there. Interested to see who's going to be at the end of the 4th round here.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy when you get a guy like Jonathan Mingo, who, again, not a great prospect. Like, realistically, I don't think he's going to go 44th overall in the actual NFL draft. But, I mean, you get 2nd round draft capital. That's definitely worth swinging on in the 4th round. Like, we're talking about guys that are late day 3 picks most of the time that you're drafting in the 4th round, let alone a guy that you just got a top 50 round capital stamp of approval on with Jonathan Mingo. So that definitely helps you. Dwayne McBride, a prospect that I really like, goes to my Tampa Bay Buccaneers here in the 5th round. I think he'd be a great fit for our offense. He's exactly the type of running back that would complement Rachaad White. You need somebody who is a pure runner to complement Rachaad White, and that's exactly what Dwayne McBride represents. So I'm on the board here. I actually really like a couple guys that are available still as like sleeper wide receiver prospects. I think
Yep.
Puka Nakua from BYU, he has a pretty good like analytics profile. He had a good target share this year, good PFF receiving grade, stuff like that. He goes fourth round to the Chicago Bears, who now that they have DJ Moore, have a little bit more target competition there, but I still think he's interesting. And Dontavian Wicks, who I watched and graded and wrote up for the BDGA draft guide, I thought was a good, sleeper wide receiver prospect as
Yep.
well. So I'm just kind of looking at the board here, and I don't love where I'm at. I actually am going to go with a player who's very undersized, but absolutely deserves to be drafted. And he was a day 3 pick of the Washington Commanders, and he's going to replace J.D. McKissick there in Washington. So I'll take Deuce Vaughn here at the 411.
For sure, for sure. I think that's a fine pick there. Dontavian Wicks is somebody I'm considering right now. I'm actually going to go with Michael Wilson. He gets a nice spot here. Denver Broncos. Sean Payton coming in. We are hearing a lot of rumblings that Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton potentially could be on the move. And overall, when you're talking about, NFL talent evaluators, a lot of guys are very keen on Michael Wilson. Battled some injuries, but really dominated at the Senior Bowl, the Shrine Bowl this year. Really, really dominated there. Yeah, we hear some of these stories every year, but 4th round opportunity to play. I think you do a lot worse with your 412 here.
Yeah, I mean, in the 3rd and 4th round of these rookie drafts, just get your guys, right? Like, if you like a guy's tape, if you liked him in college, he's got a decent landing spot and decent draft capital, just get your guys, man. Like, honestly, that's where I'm at. Deuce Vaughn, his profile is not good because of his size, but his profile, other than the size, is very good. So I'll take him going to Washington. They just keep drafting players that I really like, apparently, with Dotson and Sam Howell and all those dudes. So I like Deuce Vaughn there at the 411. So there was a number of guys that didn't actually go in this mock draft, but obviously if we were going 5 rounds, 6 rounds or whatever, then there'd be a lot of priority UDFAs that you'd be going after. I still think Puka Nakua, like I said, would probably belong to go in this mock draft as well. Dontavian Wicks would be interesting. Tank Dell, I don't know if he actually went in this one as well. He went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the 5th round also. So a number of different guys that would still be interesting yet on the board. And I think there was a couple. I think Laporta was the only guy that went with day 2 draft capital that was not drafted in this actual draft here. And then there was Jaden Reed we didn't talk about either. He went 80th overall to the Steelers. Would be kind of interesting slot guy there.
Yeah, I mean, overall, this was a lot weirder of a mock draft. So if you're in the comments right now, this is unrealistic. Like, don't take it out on us. Okay, we're just the messengers here. But honestly, I enjoy when the mock draft is a little unpredictable like this, because it opens up a lot more conversation. And a lot of times, we could stick to the exact same mock draft, and people are just going to say, yeah, that's the most realistic. But talking about different scenarios is crucial, because we see it every damn year in the NFL draft, where a guy that we project, I mean, you mentioned Tyquan Thornton earlier, a guy that we probably thought was going to go, round 4, round 5, ends up going at the 51st overall pick to the New England Patriots. Sky Moore, a guy that everybody thought, was going to go in the top 35, great profile coming out, ends up slipping to the mid to late 2nd round to go to the Kansas City Chiefs. A lot of stuff that we predict right now, especially in March, is not going to come to fruition come late April. So I like seeing mock drafts like this, that we can kind of, talk about these unforeseen type of scenarios based off what we're projecting.
Yeah, we're not expecting all these like mid wide receivers to go in the 2nd round, but what if they do, right? Like, that's going to affect rookie mocks, right? We're all dead set, ready to take a bunch of these running backs here in the 2nd round. But if Trey Palmer and A.T. Perry and Jonathan Mingo and all these dudes start going in the 2nd round of the actual NFL draft, we're going to have to at least value them as like top 30 to 35 players in Dynasty rookie draft. We're also dead set that we're going to get like 2 or 3 first round tight ends. We get none in this scenario. So that also kind of shakes up the mock draft as well. We saw, Tank Bigsby, who I've never seen Tank Bigsby go in the top 3 rounds of mock drafts, let alone the 2nd round where he went here. Same goes with Israel Abanikanda. And it's possible that these guys start generating some steam. Kendre Miller went on day 2 as well, as pro day circuits get into full swing, because some of these dudes didn't test, right? Kendre Miller didn't test at the combine. Israel Abanikanda didn't run at the combine. It's possible that he, generates some more buzz as well. So there's a lot to talk about with these scenarios. There's a reason we're doing 6, 7, 8, 9, potentially 10 of these rookie mock drafts with landing spots. It's no fun for us to say the exact same rankings every single draft. getting the input of the landing spots and the mock drafts that we get from these NFL mock drafters who study the NFL draft, not just fantasy football, is definitely a lot of fun for us to do. And we really appreciate you guys sticking around to the end. And if you did, leave a like, subscribe to the channel. If you guys are new, comment down below. What was your favorite pick? What were the biggest values? What didn't you like about the mock draft? We had a shake up at the top with 101 CJ Stroud, but I think there's going to be some leagues where quarterbacks are going that high priority, and some of them might go over Bijan Robinson there at 101. So definitely leave all that down below. If you guys want access to our rookie rankings, all of our rankings, best ball rankings, extra bonus content, head on over to flockfantasy.com. Use the promo code FSE when you sign up, and you'll get put into private Discord channels with us as well. So tons of content going on over there. 30% off using that promo code FSE off of all annual packages, where you basically get 6 months for free, and you get all of the other creators there at Flock Fantasy's content as well. So with that being said, peace out, and we'll talk to you soon.
Why you need the money?